Yeah, welcome back to this video. And so in today's video I will be doing data types. I wanted to cover this in the previous one that I did on variables, but it was getting long, so I didn't cover that, and so I will be doing it here as a separate video. And so I'll start by creating my Jupyter notebook, and I will give this name data types. Okay. And so with that, let's just go straight into coding. I've already explained some of this stuff. And so we have different types of data types. The first will be the numeric types. In these numeric types we have like integers. So for example, if you say num underscore int or integer and I give it a 10, this is an integer basically. So this is an integer. It's called int or integer in full. Okay. And of course you can always access this variable by just printing it out. And so if you do a print of that variable, we'll get this value. So we'll store this information here, so we should be able to access that information back in there. So if we do a print, we should get a 10, and if you check for the type of this, it should tell us that it's an int. Okay. If you do print type of that, it should tell us that it's an of class integer, so it's an integer basically. We could also create a float. Now let me just give it a title so that we're not confused of what we've. And so to create a cell above in Jupyter, I just typed an A on the keyboard and it created a cell above, and this is called the numeric types. So I want to cover the numeric types first before we go to other types. Okay, now let's create a float. So we could do a num that is a float, and for example we could give a 4.1. It's a float because of the decimal, it's not a whole number. And so this is of type float, which I covered in the other video. I explained it a lot, so I wouldn't waste much time there. And again, if I like print out that, it will give me that value that I assigned there. And again, if you do the type of that, it will give us that, it will tell us that, sorry, it will actually tell us that that's a float. And so it tells us that, sorry, I did not change to this name. This will tell us that it's a float because it's actually a float. Okay, that's a float. There's also a complex number. Mathematicians are already, and I believe all of you are already familiar with complex number. And so you could define another num called num complex, and we could give it the first part, which is the real, plus an imaginary part that will have a j. So that's how you write your complex numbers. Let me just do a complex, and of course you could just paste that here and print the value, and it will give us this is a complex number, it has a real and an imaginary component to it, and it's this j that is giving it an imaginary component. So those are the numeric types that we have in Python. There are also text types. So now let's go into doing the text types. So these are the types that are as text, where you have the strings. And so for example, you could say text is equal to, here let me just pass Python is a text. And so if I access what is in this variable, it's actually a text. And so the type here will be string. So if we do a type of text, it should tell us that this is a string. And so there's also another one called the sequence type. And I have the code here ready, so let me just paste it so that we'll go a little bit faster. And this is called the sequence, and let's render that by doing a markdown. And if I paste that, this is a sequence, this is a type sequence. And so basically you have like a list, so this is like a first index, and this is the second index, and this is the third index, and this is the fourth index. And then you could also have like a tuple where you have parentheses rather than a square bracket for the list, or you could also have in the form of range. These are all like sequences, and this is great for like looping. When you want to like loop through stuff, then this becomes very handy to use this type of data types. So for example, if you want to like loop through something 5 times to do a certain operation, then you could use the range of 5. And the range of 5 is just values going from 0 to 4. So if you print that, you have this as range of 5. But actually it has values going from 0 to 1 to 5. For example, if you like do for num in range 5, now let's catch all those values and let's tell it to print num, which is the value that we're catching. It will print all the values, which are those 5 values. Okay, so that's for sequences. There's also another one called the set type as set, and for this you have like set, which is actually a set, and there's also a frozen set. So these are just, yeah, it's another one, but this is like a query, and this kind of like allows you to like compare element that's on the same index in a certain, think of it as a list, but a set, to another one that is like a similar stuff that is a set that could also to think of it as a list. And so if I have two stuff that looks like this and I want to compare this to what is in the other one, then set becomes very handy. So you could just zip them and then you just compare element. I wouldn't explain past that, but just know that there's also another type called set. There's also a mapping type, which you could think of dictionaries. So there's another type of data set that is called mapping. I've already covered all this before, that's why I'm going really fast. And so you have your key, and then you have your value, you have your key, and then you have your value. So it's mapping this information into this and storing everything into this particular variable. Great. And we also have booleans, which I already covered. I just said through or false. And so I just paste the code here, and so if I create this variable and call is Python fun, and the answer is true, yeah, fun is fun. If I run it, then the type is actually a boolean. So this particular one picks the value true, and true is a boolean, or it could also be a false if you think Python is not fun, and it's a capital F. And if you run it now, it should turn to a false. So that's for boolean. There's also a binary type, where it could either be this or that. Okay, and so this is an example of the binary. So you could just change hello into binary, for example. So if we run this now, and if we print, for example, where should we start? Let's print this binary data out here. Then it gives us this particular information, but as for a binary type. Great. And of course you could always like consume other stuff, like by creating your own dictionary that will combine that would basically have some form of like list, concatenated list, rather than just having a single seed as like in the what do you call it, in the key. Sorry, the key will be one value, but in the value could be extended, so you could have more than one single value. That's another form, but those are like those are still dictionary basically. I wouldn't bother you with that, but these are the basic data type that you should know, at least as a starter. And so in this particular video we covered numeric types, which are basically integer, float, and complex numbers. We cover the text types, which are strings. We cover the sequence types, which are lists, tuples, and ranges. We cover the set type, which are set and frozenset. We cover the mapping types, the Boolean types, the binary types, and I also mentioned of a possibility of having object and classes that could fall in category of custom data types. Please, if these videos have been helpful to you, leave a like, or if you learn any new thing in this particular video, just like the video, and that will help recommend this video to other viewers, and that's how we'll help other new people to learn fun thing about Python. Thanks for always stopping by for my regular viewers, and I hope to see you in the next video, which I will be doing on basic maths in Python. So we'll be doing basic mathematical operation. I'll be showing you how to do things like square root, or even do equations that are even more complicated, how to code a complex, complicated or very long equation, how to solve simultaneous equations, and a lot of stuff. And so see you in the next video. Bye bye.